And I would recommend we do that first on the agenda because we have
Wellfleet Conservation Commission on Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021, pursuant of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, 18-25, as amended by Chapter 28 of the Acts of 2009, the Wetlands Protection Act, and to the Wellfleet Environmental Protection Bylaw, July 1986, and its regulations, January 2000. This is being held remotely pursuant of Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's orders imposing strict limitations of the number of people that may gather in one place. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted at this meeting. So do we have to move to open the business meeting?
I believe you just did.
Okay, then we should have a roll call of the people present.
Yes, please.
Barbara Brennesol, John Kumbler,
Yes.
Leon Shreves, and Mike Fisher. So that's 4.
Great.
Okay.
I'm going to suggest we just vote to have Mike Fisher. I guess I want us to be clear. Mike Fisher, you're agreeing to chair just this one meeting. Just this one meeting with Barbara as the vice chair for just this one meeting. So is it possible that we might be able to have one of you step up to chair for a few more meetings than one?
I'll do it.
Any takers?
I'll do it. I'll do
Oh,
it.
Leon, you'll do
Leon.
it?
Great.
Thank you, Leon.
Great,
Let
perfect,
me, I need to gird my loins a little bit for this, so.
perfect. So
I'll
Mike will do it
practice.
tonight, and then we'll get you at the helm in a following meeting. That's great.
Okay,
Entertain a motion to have me as chair for one meeting with Barbara as vice chair, and then Leon Shreves as the chair thereafter.
So moved, John Kumbler.
If there's no objections, we'll have a roll call vote. Barbara,
Yeah, yes.
John Kumbler,
Yes.
Leon Shreves,
yep.
Mike Fisher, yes.
Great.
Okay. The first item is a discussion of the draft decision for 1440 Quesset Neck Road. This is on a closed hearing so that we're not taking any new information.
I just lost my copy. Did you guys all receive it? I emailed it up. I emailed it out to you about a half an hour ago.
Yes, it looks good to me.
Okay. And we were gonna add to it our findings from the first hearing. Or the first denial. So,
All right.
So is there any discussion?
I just saw a typo or two. I really just had a chance to scan it. I mean, it looked okay. I would like to study these a little more depth before I sign my name to it, but I'm willing to go based on my scanning of this document.
I take that as a movement to approve. A second?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
Amy Questle, Town Council. I just wanted to quickly run through the findings with the commission. Again, just very quickly, the decision has there's some background information, mainly the reason for the remand, and that was taken from the court's decision. And the findings, are just essentially that, you held your hearing on February 17th. What I did, the description of the project, and then we have a finding that the regulations give the commission discretion to allow a CES on property that has a structure or dwelling built before 1978. As you may recall, the judge determined that the house was pre-78 and required that the remand be consistent with his finding. However, the regulation that allows for a CES on property that was built prior to 1978 is a discretionary decision of the commission. It's not a shall issue, shall allow a CES. It's a may allow a CES. So I just simply pointed that out. I then went through the regulation that starts with the fact that the commission may allow a CES, and there's a couple things that the applicant needs to show. One of them is that it will not have an adverse impact on adjacent or nearby resource areas, and then the alternatives analysis. And the alternatives analysis, one part of it, the second part of that says that the applicant may be required to demonstrate that that a non-structural solution has been tried and failed. And so I then went into the findings that were made at the February 17th hearing, which are that the December 3rd, 2018 letter from the National Seashore, the Cape Cod National Seashore, there was points in that were not addressed by the applicant. The applicant's studies that were presented in the notice of intent were not project or property specific studies. They were studies that were based upon the area, and that the applicant's statements that there would be no adverse impact were not backed up by anything. They were just simply statements, and that there is information that is missing. So the second half of the court's order was that the commission has to determine if there is missing information and has to explain that information with specificity, which is what I did in the findings. Essentially, that a peer review is required to determine if there's going to be an adverse impact on adjacent resource areas. We also would be looking for the reports from the Cape Cod National Seashore, because the applicant had called into question Mr. Carlson's expertise. And so the Seashore went back and got 2 reports to back him, that essentially backed up his conclusions. So those are necessary for the commission. That is missing information. And then, the other missing information is the fact that there is an alternative right before us, right before our eyes, that appears to be working. Now, there's also the finding that even if the court holds that no new information at all, none can be taken, the applicant has not shown that a non-structural solution has been tried and failed, because the non-structural solution is actually working. So those are, in summary, those are the findings. So if you guys could, get them signed and sign the decision and get it over to Hillary, that would be great.
There's an incorporation of the previous findings.
Yes, as Hillary had stated, we will be also incorporating the previous, decision with the findings.
Good. So I believe Barbara moved this. Is there a second?
Second, John Kumbler.
Okay, we have to have a roll call vote. Barbara,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
and Mike Fisher, yes.
And can I just ask, Chris, are you going to be working on Friday? So if the commissioners could get the signature sheet back to you on Friday?
I am, and I'm questioning what the signature sheet is. Is it like
It's the last
It's on.
page of the findings.
It's on there.
oh, I didn't get a copy of that, or I haven't looked at that. Okay. So I'll forward that to you, Amy, right? Is it okay if I,
You will be sending that, yes, you will be sending that certified mail to the applicant. And
It's
then
gonna-
if you could
It's
forward
gonna
it to me.
go- It's gonna go along with the denial with the order of conditions. So this just gets folded into the order of conditions denial.
Yes,
So each of us prints out that last page and signs it and drops it off.
Mhm.
and then if you could also scan me a copy, I will get that over to Attorney Zender.
Of the
do I
complete order
use
of
the
conditions.
old
Yep.
SE number, the old DEP number from
Yes.
from 2018?
Yes, the decision is quite clear that it's a remand.
And okay, so use that
Yeah.
number, okay. So you'll take care of getting that to Ben, so I don't have to deal with him.
No, but
Do you
No,
want
but
me
if
to
you-
send it to him?
if you could just make sure you get it to the applicant and I'll get it to Ben Zender, his
Okay.
attorney. Yeah. I can send you an email, Chris, with everything that needs to be done.
Yeah, I just want to, I don't want to goof this up.
That would be perfect, Amy. Thank you.
No
Okay.
problem. I will do that. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right.
you,
Thank you,
Amy.
everyone. All right.
Thank
I'll
you,
talk to you
Amy.
soon. Thanks.
And I guess we should note that Ben Fairbank is now present as well
Yes.
as a member.
Yeah, sorry, at the last minute, I wasn't able to come to the meeting. So Hillary, can you update me on at some point, maybe by email or something, or? Sorry about that.
What happens in executive session stays in executive session, but, we can update you on what happened in.
Oh, good point. Good point. Okay.
Okay, so I guess the next item on the.
Well, if there's anything that is consequential to me not being there.
Thank
let me
you.
know.
Yeah,
But-
you're okay.
Next item on the agenda, mail and discussion.
We've had some mail back and forth with the homeowner at 135 Old Truro Road. Doug and I are working through that. It's been a lot of correspondence. That was the house that went up where there was a barn and we received a complaint from the neighbor. The site supervisor had complained about the silt fence, so we're diligently working on that. Our other violation was the Kimmick property near the office, and they have since submitted their request for determination after the fact, so that one will be coming up as well. That's all the mail we have at the moment. We do have Peter McMahon on the line if we wanted to jump to the jurisdictional opinions.
Okay, let's move to the jurisdictional opinion. This is for the 54 Valley Road.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Peter.
Hi. Did you did you get that plan I sent you, Hillary? I emailed it. The long and the short of it is that I got a quote from Feral Electric to move the pole, the last power pole, out of the wetland and up onto the driveway, which is like $5,000. Subsequently looked at where that would have to be, and it would have to be really close to the house. Also really on the driveway, which would make it in danger of being hit by a car or a propane delivery truck or something. So subsequently, I'm now getting a quote from Feral to actually trench it underground from the pole that's up the hill. So that pole in the bottom right, the end of that dotted line, that pole was replaced by Feral about 3 years ago or something. It fell over in a storm. That's a new pole. And the pole that's in question is down at the bottom. That's in the wetland about 10 feet. That's original pole from 1953 and it's spindly and in danger of falling over. It also has a transformer on it and it's in the wetland. And just to refresh memory. So Farrell came out and said that it was too weak to carry for someone to climb up, and the guy wire had broken. So they replaced the guy wire as a temporary fix. Just put a guy wire on it to keep it from falling over. But you know, the house is on the National Registry and it's a historic building. And putting the pole that close to the house to put it up on in the line of the, you know, in line with the pole above and up on the, you know, out of the wetland, puts it really close to the house. And you look out the kitchen window, all you would be able to see is the pole. So anyway, I'm wondering if it might not be better if it's affordable to bury it and get it so it's not even over the wetland. I think that would mean moving the transformer up to the top of the hill. But that might be a better place for it anyway, to keep it out of, you know, not in danger of falling in the wetland.
Well, I for one appreciate the care that you're taking with this house and also with the environment. And I would think that underground cabling would be, I think, a good way to keep the vista clear as well.
Mm-hmm. So I'm expecting a quote on that this week. So would there be an objection to that if it's affordable and I can get that to happen?
I think it's, I mean, there'll be disruption in putting the underground trenching, getting the underground line in. On the other hand, I think it's less of a problem in the long run, less worry about trees falling on lines falling down. So I would say that my personal feeling is that we should support this as an alternative to putting in the pole next to the house.
So do we want to vote to approve the jurisdictional opinion with the underground trenching? And if it has to change, then Peter will come back to us.
That's what I would prefer. I propose that as a motion.
Second,
Nice.
Barbara. So,
Everyone seems to be in agreement. All right, let's have a vote then. Barbara,
yes,
John,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
and Mike Fisher, yes.
Great.
It's a good point about the trees, because that wetland's full of big old mature trees and they're falling over at a sort of a regular intervals. Yeah.
Should we go back to the Upper Herring River Tidal Restrictions MET grant?
Yes, unless we want to talk about Ethan Estes' grant. Again, you all did a site visit out there and I am looking to print the paperwork from Peter so I can have it in the file.
I don't see him here.
Was he at the site visit?
yes.
Yes.
Nancy was also.
I saw Nancy was on there, so maybe we can just begin the conversation.
Now there's a slight, well, I suppose it's all right. Since it's proposed to drive trucks across Conservation Trust land, I really think I should recuse on this, but that leaves you 4 commissioners.
I don't think, we were out there and I don't think we can do anything because part of where Ethan's proposing to drive is not only Conservation Trust, but it's also Audubon.
Oh,
So I suggested that they look at who owns where he's proposing to drive, because there's no driving on Audubon property. And all the folks who have grants there now cannot drive to them in that section. They use boats or they come via Lieutenant Island to access their grants. So I suggested that Nancy and Ethan do some research as to who owns the portions that Ethan's proposing to drive on. The Audubon does own his grant. That's not contested. But how far out they own as to where he proposes to drive is something that we don't know, and he doesn't know.
Okay.
Nancy, do you have a,
No, that's, so kind of my next steps are to go to town hall and look at his grant file and just see who's, if there's any record of that. And then he was going to call Melissa at Audubon to see whether he could get permission from them. And then I don't know what any kind of stipulations might be, because the Conservation Trust property, I don't know that I guess I don't know how far that extends into the channel area. And so I don't know if that's also, if he would need permission from them as well, from the Conservation Trust. But I had, what was my other note? Figure out the property line. Yes. Yeah. So I'm trying to see if I can get the aquaculture layer that we have of GIS data uploaded to the town's assessors database. That might help us in the future understand which grants are on private and which are on public property, and who the owners are. So I'm working on that, and then I'm going to look through his file, and then he was going to call Melissa Losestaro from Audubon. So that's kind of the next steps in this right now. And I don't know how, if we should be doing the same with the Wellfleet Conservation Trust. I'm not sure.
well, it sounds to me that we can't act on this until we get that information.
Right.
I believe that's,
So Hillary, we should go on to the next
Yeah, we
item.
can continue it indefinitely. I mean, that's the best
Yeah.
we can do until we get more information and it can come back to us.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
I move
So
that we
moved.
continue this indefinitely until they come back with the information we need and they need.
Second, Barbara.
Okay, I'm recusing. Barbara, how do you vote?
Yes.
John,
Yes,
Ben,
Yes.
Leon?
yes,
Okay. The Upper Herring River Tribal Restrictions MET grant?
Sure. I can't quite honestly recall why that's even on there. I think there was a note maybe on my board that got melded in to our agenda for some reason, but Lauren, I see Lauren on here, and she and I are actively administering a grant together for the 2 culverts at Upper Herring River. And we're working through that with a very small team. Barbara's on it, John's on it, Philip Tobias is on it from the Nature Conservancy. Some Friends of Herring River staff jump in now and then as well. And we did receive a nice grant from the Friends of Herring River to actually be able to carry out all of the work needed to get some plans to actually be able to install these sometime in the future. So we are going to get some historical work done on historical resources with the funding from the Friends of Herring River. So we're very grateful to them. And once we have something more concrete, I'm happy to present it to you guys just to keep you in the loop. And Lauren, I'll turn it over to you if you have anything further to add.
I don't. I just saw it on the agenda after the earlier agenda item that I was also interested in. And actually, I was interested in the Weidlinger House in too. So I figured I'd say hello to my former Conservation Commission members.
Yes.
Co-members. Yes. So nothing new for me. It's going
Nice to see you here.
It's going very well, and I know that they got their archaeological resource permits so that they can do those investigations as well. So it's moving along quite well, and they're going to come in April. Is that right, Hillary?
Yes, I believe so.
Yep.
All right, if this ever comes for permitting from the Conservation Commission, I just want to remind folks that John Portnoy and I are involved in this project, and I don't know if that will present a conflict of interest once again. So we should really make sure that we have a full Conservation Commission before this and Herring River things come up for permitting. So people ask around if, or recruit people to join the commission.
On that note, I will be gone in April.
This won't come by then. I don't
Okay.
think.
No, no, it won't be.
No.
I just, while we're on this subject, I briefly mentioned to Trudy the fact that we might need some a new body. And she said she would think seriously about coming back on a temporary basis.
Great.
Any promise, but I just wanted to get that out there because I was worried about how many people we're going to have when I leave in April, but I guess John will be back in April.
Right.
Mhm. Well, that'll be,
So Hillary, you might reach out to Trudy too.
I will send her a text right now because that's exciting. I
She didn't say
really
yes,
don't
but she
believe
said
it,
she
though.
didn't say no. She said
Okay.
consider it. But she did say on a temporary basis. That she was pretty firm about.
Okay, I don't see John Reel here for the draft harbor management plan. So perhaps we can skip to late submission of paperwork from applicants.
Yeah, just on the draft harbor management plan, we did circulate the comments that a couple of you had made. So I think we were just waiting to see if there were any additional comments. And if not, then we can let John Reel know that. And he was going to get back to us with a final draft from all of the other comments he was soliciting. So we could have one more look at it.
Okay, the only thing that I saw is that it goes back and forth between blood arc and blood clams almost randomly. And that should probably be consistent.
Well, if you want to send him that note on your own,
I'd be glad to do that.
yeah, I've made that comment to him a couple of times. Helen's got her hand up.
Yes, as Barbara Brennisel may or may not remember, in our shellfish regulations, there are two species of clams that have hemoglobin. One of them is found in the south, but when we drafted that regulation, and I did most of the language when I was on the Shellfish Committee, according to Mike Hickey, the then director of the Division of Marine Fisheries, the ponderous arcs may and have been slowly moving north. And so we included that species in our regulation, okay? And I'm not sure that that was fully understood at the time that there was an exchange with at least John Reel. There was some exchange about it when we were looking at the harbor management plan, and I forget where. It may have been at the Shellfish Committee. Anyway, that's the story about the hemoglobin clams. Thank you.
So should we ask if he has, well, we should just wait for a final version, which he was going to send out, right?
Yep, I'm just going to send him the hemoglobin clam comment and
Call them ponderous, call them by their terms, because that's my way of referring to it, so you understand what that species has that's special, but it's not science speak. So it's either blood arc clam or ponderous arc clam. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion of that?
nope.
Okay, so do we have meeting minutes that have to be approved?
Deb and I spent a lot of time on the last set of minutes, and I don't know if Chris sent them out to everyone to look at.
I'm sorry, I assumed you had sent them out. I can do that on Friday.
The ones that Deb and I corrected, I don't know if,
Well, at the last meeting, I sent them to you and Debbie
mhm.
because John Portnoy isn't here.
Right, and we made
Here.
extensive.
And I was
extensive-
assuming you would edit and then send them out to the rest of the commission.
Yeah, I did the initial edit, sent it to Deb, and then I don't know what happened after that.
Yeah, and I don't either. I'll double check. But if that's the case, then I'll get them out on Friday. And then we also have meeting minutes from the first meeting in February. And I don't have the date in front of me right now with the first meeting in February. I don't have a calendar with me. There was 2/17 our last meeting, so
2-3.
2-3.
2-3.
3. Yeah,
Have to be.
those were, I believe that those were distributed.
And did someone edit those, Chris? Was John still here?
I think Portnoy was still here and I think you took a peek at them. Because we didn't have time at our last meeting. It was so long.
Right. Well, I don't know if anybody else saw them. So
Okay.
maybe send all the February minutes out and we can approve them at the next meeting. I just want to make sure that everyone saw them and we
Well,
got a
Yes.
chance to review them.
I got an email from Barbara saying last attempt at revising the 2/17/21 minutes. So I think the 2/17 did go out. I remember reading it. And the 2. let's see.
But then what happened, Mike, was that Deb sent them to me as a PDF.
Yes.
So I could not make corrections. So
Yeah.
I made a list of corrections for her to make, but I don't know if she ever incorporated them. Because I couldn't edit a PDF.
Yeah, that's a problem I have as well with the PDF.
So I think we have to go back to Deb for this one and ask her for her latest version of these and if she could send them to us.
Yeah, I'll double check my emails and I'll get them out on Friday. Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
thank you.
So we'll have a number of meeting minutes to approve later. So anything more in the business meeting?
I have one thing. There's a AmeriCorps volunteer, Jordan Halloran, who's working on some outreach about our vessel regulations. And I would like permission to just put a little blurb into the seasonal residents newsletter about the change to the regulation. But I didn't want to just do that without permission from the commission to do that. So when Jordan's finished with this blurb, it's just going to be a little paragraph, which basically copies the change we made to the regulation and explains why, mostly it's educational, explain why it's important that we have this regulation. If she does that and I get it and send it to you, I'd like permission to send it so that we can start to educate people. And she's working on a pamphlet and other things, but I thought the seasonal residents would be a good place to reach a lot of people very early in the season.
I move that we support Barbara doing that. It just seems to me we don't need to spend a lot of time. More than already.
Do you want to see what we're going to write or?
I think we can trust you. We've
Okay.
seen what you've done. I trust you. I think.
Okay, I'll send you a copy, but I'd like to get it out to the residents soon.
So I move that we support you sending it out to the residents.
Is there a second?
Leon second.
Okay, we'll have a vote. Barbara,
Yeah,
John,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
and Mike Fisher, yes.
So are we done this part so I can go get another cup of tea?
Well, we had the one discussion on the late submission of paperwork from
Oh,
applicants.
yes.
mhm.
Yes.
I feel like we constantly get late paperwork, and it's just as upsetting for us as it is for you. And so I think we just need just a brief reminder that we need all paperwork 1 week before the hearing, the Wednesday before, or we will not hear the case. So I think we have to stick to that.
Yeah, I
think
do.
reasonable.
I do too.
I think we should just make it a regular policy then.
Yes.
I mean,
And I think-
can I say, I can see extraordinary circumstances when we might make an exception to this. So I don't think has to be, there's no exception, but I do think as a policy should be, if it's not in, you're not on the agenda.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know how to make the exception in there, but
Maybe if it's something simple, I guess we'll have to see what we think, but generally speaking, we need all paperwork 1 week in advance.
right.
And I think that's all I have for today.
All right, I'll be sending everyone a photo. There's a big sandbag on the beach between the Gut and Duck Harbor that sort of escaped from a project in that area. And I don't know what we do about it, but I'll send the photo.
I saw the photo. I couldn't get the sense of the scale of that.
The bag?
Yeah.
Well, it's about
2 feet or 2.
it's a little bigger than the average ottoman.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a big bag. They were using them, filling them with sand and then putting their tractor, the little Bobcat, on it.
Oh,
Oh, that was for, yes,
Those bags, yeah.
right.
at the end of the landing or at the end of the property?
This is all the way down the beach. It's halfway to Duck Harbor, and I can send a map and show you where it is. It's halfway between the Gut and Duck Harbor, so that's how far it's traveled.
and there was no name of the company or any identification on it?
No. But it is exactly the same as the bags that they were using for the project. And some of those very kind people working on that project actually gave me one of those bags to put some turtles in and lug them, down the beach. So it's the same bag.
Okay.
Hillary,
Yes.
this is going to be very much help, but I was walking along the backside beach, I think from LeConte Hollow North, and there is a septic system that looks like it's about to come tumbling down. Do we do anything about that?
Yeah, we usually write them a letter. So if you could get me the semi-location, we will reach out to them.
I'm not sure where it is exactly, except it's along that walk.
Okay.
A lot of stuff has come down in recent, weeks because of storms. But this looks, I was thinking, talk about danger of something falling on somebody. This looks rather tenuous.
So it's between LeCount and
Nancy has a.
They want to move. That we looked at, and they're trying to get zoning board permission.
oh, near Bob Behringer's?
It's between LeConte and Bob Behringer.
Okay. Easy enough.
Nancy, do you have a comment?
Yeah, hi. I was just gonna check in because I did see that one email come through. So I'm inquiring if I can about your public hearings coming up and if any of the Samoset or Bayview ones are gonna be heard today.
No.
Bye-bye. All right, thank you.
Okay, shall we move to close the business meeting?
Yeah, before we move to close it, Shadorowski is being continued. We don't have the reports from Woods Hole Group yet for Simone, Michelson, or Behringer. So we will be continuing all of those.
Okay.
So we're going to hear Rosenbaum, Robertson, Spindler, Coates.
Do we have to sign anything about the continuance? We don't, do we?
No, no.
Good.
If Chris could email us the last page that we have to sign, that would be great. So I don't have to go looking for it again.
That is a good idea.
Is that for the order of conditions? Is that what you're looking for?
It's the denial of the NOI that.
Okay, order of conditions.
Yep.
Conditions.
Order of
Yeah.
condition. Okay.
I will, yes.
Because it's different from our other order of conditions form. It's the end of the letter that she wrote.
Oh, I just emailed that to you.
Okay.
Whole thing or just that page?
I sent the whole document.
And it's just the last page of the
It's just
document.
the last page of the
Okay.
document.
Okay. I think I can handle that with my limited technological skill.
If not, let me know.
Okay, so is there a motion to close the business meeting?
So moved, John Cumbler.
I
Right, so-
second Ben.
All right, we have a voice vote. Barbara,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
and Mike Fisher, yes. So we meet back in 15 minutes.
Right.
Great.
Okay. Very good.
And we have a quorum. So I'd like to open the public hearing for the Wellfleet Conservation Commission Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021, pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, 18 through 25, as amended by Chapter 28 of the Acts of 2009, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Wellfleet Environmental Protection Bylaws, July 1986, and its regulations, January 2000. This is being held pursuant of Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending provisions of the open meeting law and ordering a strict limitation of the number of people that can gather in one place. So we have the public hearings. The first is Shadrovsky, and I believe that this is going to be continued. We have to move to continue that.
Yes, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, Barbara.
All right, on a voice vote to continue Shadrovsky, Barbara,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
and Mike Fisher, yes. The next case is Rosenblum.
Do we have a form for this?
Shadorowski is going to be continued to.
Continued.
Oh,
Do we fill out something for that?
no, you're not going to fill in anything, but it's being continued to the 3/17 hearing date. So I
Okay.
just don't want you to lose sight of that.
Okay, the next case is Rosenbaum, 100 Second Avenue, map 40, parcel 136, NOI, construct second floor and reconstruct existing deck, placement of sand fill on northern side of dwelling. Is there someone representing that case?
Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks like Ben is in our waiting room, and I believe he represents the Rosenbaums. And J.M. O'Reilly represented them as well at the last hearing. So here's
Right.
Ben.
So Mr. Zender, do you want to present the case?
Excuse me, I just came in. Did you just call our case?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, everybody. Hello, everybody. How are you all? And we should have on the line would be John O'Reilly.
Not apparently.
Okay, well then, he may be coming in just a moment. Just at the last meeting, the board was looking for some additional information for the case. One of which was a calculation of the yards of fill that would have been required to come in on the north side of the house, and John O'Reilly has calculated it as 425 cubic feet of material.
Cubic yards, I believe.
No, I don't think it is cubic yards. I think it's cubic feet. I think it works out to about it's cubic feet. I think it works out to about 16 cubic yards. It's I don't want to characterize the number as great or small, but I think the number is 425 cubic feet. Additionally, the board was looking for some verification that that there are no new decks being constructed for the project, and John has again submitted a plan that shows. I hope it's clear enough to the board and the commission that there are no new decks being added to the project. It's only the existing decks that are being retained. And finally, the board was looking for, I think I'm not sure it's argument, but some explication of the local bylaw, whether it will allow for the placement of fill on the north side of the property. And I submitted for the commission to Hillary, and I'm not sure if she has the ability to put them up or not, and if not, she doesn't, but that the house appears to be sitting in a location where the top of the dune was cut away to build the house when the house was built. I think the members have all been out there. You've all seen it. It's higher on the north side, it's higher on the south side, and it looks like it's sort of scooped out where the house is. And then since that time, there's probably been some wind action to blow the sand around as well in that area. So what we're proposing is to add some fill back into that north side to bring that dune line down towards the house, and to replant that, as John has noted in the filings, with American beach grass. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you. And so I hope the commission can see on the Zoom that the dune on the right-hand side, or the bank, is higher in there. And it looks like, and it's also like that on the south side of the house. It looks like it was cut away to construct the house when it was initially constructed. So what John's proposing is to bring some fill in to smooth that line down to the foundation area, and then reinstall the original wooden walkways over it, as well as to replant that area with American beach grass and to restabilize it so it functions in the same way that it's functioning now. I did go back and look at your local bylaw. I wanted to try to get a better understanding as to whether or not this particular activity was prohibited within the filter strip. And it's not. Your filter strip regulations, your 50-foot filter strip regulations, don't prohibit bringing in fill. They don't specifically permit bringing in fill. So I believe that, whether or not this area can be altered in this way is really part of the judgment call that this commission is making in terms of whether or not to grant an order of conditions for the project. I believe that, if it's filled with matching grain material, and it's planted with American beach grass, and there's a planting protocol in place to stabilize that area, I think it will function the same way that it's functioning now, and I'm hopeful the board will approve that. So I think that's sort of the sum total of the updates that the board was looking for at this point. And I'll try to answer any questions, and hopefully John will be on to answer any technical questions as they come up.
Leon?
Yes, I had a couple of questions. One, are you going to cover the windows that are on the basement foundation on the north side?
I believe they will be covered, yes.
So, okay. And I guess I just want to avoid, this is all being done to game the system so that you can put a second story on it. I'm still a little concerned about the fact that we're adding more weight onto a house that's literally on the edge of the cliff. And that.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. And I apologize to the member. I did not address that question. That was one of the things that I think you had brought up at the last meeting. I think John has, and John's online. He can address the civil engineering aspect of this, if you don't mind.
Sounds fine. Thank you.
John?
Good evening. I'm sorry I'm late. I had trouble logging on. We did take that question under consideration, and we did, when you're dealing with sandy material and you're doing bearing capacities and bearing pressures, we generally show, or generally designed with the idea that the slope or the ratio of load bearing, if you will, is at a 45-degree angle. So what we've done, because the question was asked, is we developed section AA, which does show the coastal bank, the slope of the coastal bank, where the footing on the existing house sits. And we've got, we do show the 45-degree angle leading from the bottom of the footing where the load will be exerted. That angle does not intersect the slope of the bank. So that's telling me that the bank is not going to have an impact because of the additional second story. In fact, it's quite a bit different. It doesn't come close to the surface of the slope, and I think that hopefully that demonstrates you where the load will be dispersed below the house, and we do not anticipate any issue with the coastal bank stability of the coastal bank at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from commissioners? Well, I have a question for Mr. O'Reilly. So what is the purpose of this fill? We've gotten, I think, 3 different explanations from the applicant.
Yeah, I think I need to, I think my letter did indicate that it was adjusting the grade to adjust the height of the building or max out the height of the building. And the intention of my letter was to bury the northern, fill the northern side of the house with the fill that I think Ben had talked about as I was joining, which covers the 2 windows. Those 2 windows will be blocked off and closed off. And what it does is simply put the first floor at grade floor into a basement category, so it's not counted as a living floor for the 2-story buildings.
And through the chair, may I address that point?
Yes, please.
Look, I don't want to try to hide something from this commission, but I do want to, just present this as why we're doing it, but also what the commission's role is here. The zoning bylaw has do you mind if I just close my door for 1 second?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I think they're replacing carpeting out there. So the zoning bylaw defines what a basement is. And I'll read it for the board. It says it's a story partly underground, but having at least 1/2 of its height above the average level of the adjoining ground. A basement shall be counted as a story for purposes of height measurement if the vertical distance between the ceiling and the average level of the adjoining ground is more than 5 feet. So this is a separate calculation from the height calculation. The height calculation under zoning is that a house can't be more than 30 feet above the existing undisturbed grade level before disturbance. But for the purposes of whether a basement is or is not a story, zoning permits the applicant to obviously fill around a basement or dig a house down into the ground so that it's not a story. So the purpose for the fill on the north side is very clear. It's to make sure that the calculation of the height of the lowest level doesn't constitute a story under zoning. No question. But that being said, it doesn't permit the Rosenbaums to build the house higher than zoning would allow. It doesn't give them any additional level to measure from the height of the house. It just, what they're essentially doing is bringing that basement back to probably where it should have been when the house was built, which is part of the underground part of that lot, as opposed to having been dug out when the house was built and exposed. All that being said, I think the role of this commission is not to determine whether the applicant should or shouldn't comply with zoning, or even whether they should or shouldn't get a good view from the property. It's whether or not the application that's presented does in fact meet the performance standards for the application. And by putting that fill in, the change in the fill in that particular location, and I'll let John address this if he can, it's not going to change the way that this lot performs. It's not going to change the way the groundwater performs. It's not going to change the way that erosion does or doesn't happen on the coastal bank. And it's going to be replanted, and it's going to exist in the exact same way that that bank exists, 10 or 15 feet away from the house. And so I don't think that this particular proposal to do this, in and apart from the reason that the Rosenbaums are doing it, in any way should mean that it is not approvable by this board. And thank you for letting me go on that long. I appreciate all your patience.
Barbara, did you have a point?
No, I was just going to say that as long as the fill doesn't have a negative impact on the area, I mean, we can approve it. And if it's planted with beach grass, it may actually be an improvement to the current area. Yes, that will allow zoning to permit the upper story, but that's not our concern. Our concern is the resource and the buffer zone. So I don't see how this will have a negative impact in the area of our jurisdiction. The only thing I want to say is that this is a minor point that I pick on all the time, but all these plans should have the amount of disturbance on the property. And I think that Mr. O'Reilly did do that within the 50-foot buffer zone, but it's the whole area of our jurisdiction up to the 100 that should be on the plan. And that includes driveways, parking areas, and all of that. So right now we have existing building and deck areas and the footprint as 2,056 square feet, but that doesn't include the 100-foot and the driveway and parking. And I just like to have all that on the plan so that next time if something comes back to us, we don't have to go back and calculate everything all over again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I no problem doing that. The only reason I didn't do it for the 50 to 100 is because the entire lot is within the 50-foot buffer. It's the Second Avenue, it's the vehicle tracks that are all in the 50 to 100. That was the only reason I didn't include that.
So there's no parking or any part of the property in the 50 to 100?
That's correct. If you look in the northeast corner, you'll see a dirt road, end of a dirt road at the split rail. That's Mr. Rosenbaum's family's parking.
But it's not on his property.
No, it's within the road layout. That's correct.
Okay. All
That's
right.
the only reason I didn't include it.
Thank you for that explanation. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other, Hillary?
Hillary.
I can't seem to find a beach nourishment condition on this property. The property is revetted with a rock revetment. Does the property owner know if there's the requirement? I have not looked in the file.
Hillary, I don't know that off the top of my head. I can, while the commission's looking at this, I'll see if I can find a title abstract that shows that.
Okay, perfect. I
Okay,
can't
I'm not sure I can.
And can I ask as well, the initial application talked about changing the number of bedrooms, adding a fourth bedroom. Is the current assertion that this is a 4-bedroom already and this is not adding another bedroom?
Through the chair, that is correct. We had labeled this house as a 3-bedroom home, which was incorrect. It's a 4-bedroom home. It has a sewage system designed for the 4 bedrooms that are there now. So I clarified that in this revision that it is a 4-bedroom home now. It's permitted as 4 bedrooms with the septic system they have. And I just made the correction on the plan.
Right. That was another point of clarification we asked for.
Yes.
So thank you.
Mr. Center?
I've been looking, I just don't, I can't, I would have to do a full title search to determine whether there was a prior beach nourishment in an order of conditions. I can certainly report back to Hillary whether there is. I don't believe we're proposing any activity with regard to the coastal bank itself.
Any other comments from the commissioners or from the public? Well, we can certainly put a condition that if there's sand nourishment, a provision that should be continued.
And that would be fine.
Okay, I move that we accept the NOI for 100 Second Avenue, map 40, parcel 136.
Is there a second?
Barbara seconds it.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Barbara,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
John,
No, I'm gonna have to say no because I'm not comfortable with the fact that the building is so close to the edge of the coastal bank and it doesn't take into consideration possible erosion of the coastal bank, wind erosion of the coastal bank. So I'm gonna have to say, I just don't feel comfortable with it. Right, the construction right at the edge of the coastal bank. So I'm saying no.
Ben,
Yes.
and Mike Fisher, yes. So you're all set. Make sure.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Hold up, hold on 1 minute. I don't know if you're all set.
Fair enough.
You have 3 votes yes.
No, there's 4 votes yes.
Is there 4 votes yes? Okay, if you have 4 votes yes, then it's fine.
It's Leon, Mike, Barbara, and Ben.
And Ben, okay,
Great.
sorry.
Thank you, Hillary.
We need a supervisor and we have to fill out, is it 8B, certificate of, no, it's not certificate of
Order of
compliance.
conditions.
It's order of conditions. I don't know if we've run out of forms, Chris. Yep.
Forward some to you.
No, I have one. I have one.
Okay, the next case is Roberson.
We don't have a supervisor for that.
I'm sorry.
Pardon? Supervisor for that project?
I'll be the supervisor.
Thank
Leon.
you.
Okay, the next hearing is for Roberson, map 28, parcel 107, 117 Samoset Avenue, certificate of compliance. Is there anyone to present this case?
Let's see, this is coming in from Coastal. We generally don't have anyone in to present these. This is an order of conditions from 1990 and 1991. And Coastal was out there. It was a proposed repair to an existing bulkhead. And everything was in good condition and was completed in compliance with the order from then. And there was no evidence of anything that deviated from the approved plan.
So in that case, I move that we approve the certificate of compliance for Roberson, map 28, parcel 107.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Leon.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Barbara,
Yes.
John Kumbler,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
and Mike Fisher, yes.
That's the certificate of compliance form, Form 8.
Okay. The next hearing is Spindler, map 22, parcel 9, 120 Sandpiper Hill. This is an after the fact RDA because the brick walkway with pavers was done without approval. And the request is for replacing the stairwell and planting beach grass in the disturbed area. Is there someone representing Spindler?
I'm here, Kurt Spindler.
And I'm here also. Good evening.
Good evening. Do you want to present the case?
Just as a follow-up or reminder, on January 6th, the commission reviewed the stairway to the beach and asked for some additional information regarding the brick walkway. So that's what we're presenting tonight.
So this is an after the fact filing. It was the original stairwell that the application was for to be replaced. And upon the site visit, we noticed that the walkway was replaced without a proper permit. So it looks from this application that the walkway was replaced in the exact same location. They simply changed the material from something to something else. And I believe it was an oversight that they didn't come before us for the replacement, but they were unaware that they had to because it was the exact replacement, just of a different material. So that's what's before us now. They've paid the after the fact filing fee, and I think we have everything we need at this point to review the application.
Hillary,
Yes.
with the new walkway, is it the same porousness or impaired or less porous or more porous? I mean, how has that changed the nature of that space?
It's the same. It went from one type of paver to a newer type of paver.
But it didn't change the ability of absorb
Nope.
or runoff or anything like that.
No, and I think that they did give us some really old pictures to see it. I don't know if it made it into your packets, but I did review some really old photographs of the site.
Okay, that just answers my question.
Yeah, sorry.
Barbara?
Are these pavers permeable?
I don't believe they are.
There's no spacing in between. I think that if they had come to us for replacement, we would have suggested a different type of walkway. We usually suggest pavers with spaces in between, permeable pavers, something along those lines. We don't like to see hardening in the resource area or buffer zone. And this is in the buffer zone, I believe. The other thing is I have a question about when the deck was replaced or repaired, because that looked like it was fairly new.
The deck was part of a remodeling project on the inside of the house, and the old deck was just replaced with a new deck in exactly the same dimensions and in the same area there.
Okay, that also requires a permit because it's in the area of our jurisdiction. So any work, even if it's a one-to-one replacement, does require permitting because of the work being done in a sensitive area. We want to make sure that there's a limit of work. We want to make sure that we know what kind of materials, what kind of posts are being put down. So I just want to bring that up because that looked like the deck was recently repaired or replaced, and that we never saw a permit for that project either.
Yeah, well, it's surprising. I've used a Wellfleet builder to remodel the home, and I asked those questions as an owner, and I thought replacing the deck, otherwise I would have certainly done that. I thought that in the brick walkway, one of the problems that we were having was because the pre-existing house that my father had a lawn on it, and if you know a lawn, that a lawn in an area is a problem because it runs water off, and so that's why around the brick walkway we just made sure that the original grass that was there, the beach grass, was planted. That's all. So I didn't know. I thought within 100 feet you were fine, and I thought the brick walkway was on the back end of the 100 feet in that process, and we just replaced what was there with brick with pavers.
I believe it's 100 feet from the top of the coastal bank, and the coastal bank is right at the edge of your lawn, I think.
Right at the fence. Oh, I thought it was from the high tide mark. Yeah, my mistake. Thank you.
So do we have the plans for the new stairs?
We do. It's all included in the request for determination filing.
And they've included the identification tags the way that we requested.
I think they're certainly amenable to doing so.
Or else if the bottom section of the stairs could be taken down in the winter and stored someplace. But otherwise, a lot of these stairs get moved around in the winter and with the ice, and we've seen pieces of them showing up even on Great Island. So
Yeah,
it's nice to have an identification so we can call someone and say, hey, get your stairs, they're over here.
it's not surprising they could go, not surprising some of those boulders couldn't destroy them anywhere. That's not, we can put a tag on them. You just want a name tag on them and a number that would be, or a Spindler 120 Sandpiper Hill, we could just put it on the wood tag
Yeah,
on there.
even simpler might just be the map and parcel on the underneath of the tray.
Yeah, we can do that. It's a great idea.
Any other comments on this?
I think it has been made clear to the property owner that they are not to undergo any work without coming to us for an appropriate filing beforehand. So I do think we have let the property owner know. I think he is remorseful, and I think it won't happen again.
Yeah, this is a finable offense, so I just wanted to bring that up, and we're just, I guess, letting it slide is the sentiment here. But the other word of precaution is don't trust a builder just because he's from Wellfleet to know what the regulations are, because we've been finding them also.
Right.
And we could actually go back and ask for his name and find that person as well. But I guess we'll consider this an educational foray right now.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just like to reinforce any future work on walkways. Even before you come to us, you should design the walkways so that water can get in between them and so water doesn't run off. So we don't want impermeable walkways or driveways or anything that will further disrupt the environment.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission or from the public?
Okay, are we voting on both the walkway and the stairway?
Yes, exactly.
And the deck, I guess. Although that's not in the filing.
The deck, we weren't aware of that. That's why I didn't submit any information. I'm sorry about that.
And I guess I would want to review the building file to see if the deck was part of the building renovation plan. That I don't know. So we're voting tonight on the walkway and
the stairs.
The stairway down to the beach.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
It's an RDA.
So moved, Barbara. I move that we approve the RDA for Spindler. Map 22, parcel 9.
Is there a second? Leon seconds. Other comments?
I'm going to vote for this. I think the stairway replacement is a no-brainer. I'm not happy about the brick walkway,
No, none of us are.
but I'm not good. I think we'll create a bigger problem asking him to rip it up. So
May I ask if this is a -2 or -3?
2.
2? Thank you.
So a voice vote on a -2 RDA for the Spindler application. Barbara?
Yes.
John?
yes.
Ben?
Yes.
And Mike, yes.
Don't forget me. I'd say yes.
Oh, I'm
too.
sorry, Leon. I could hardly recognize you there.
Right.
Leon, yes.
So, what do we sign for this?
RDA. It's Form 2.
Determination of applicability.
WA Form 2.
Okay, thank you. You're all set.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your hard work.
All right, the next case is Coates, map 30, parcel 120, 10 First Avenue, NOI, remove and prune trees to improve view, mitigate with native vegetation.
Michael, before we go on to that, can I just tell Mr. Michelson that we are not going to be hearing his case tonight because we have not received the paperwork from the Woods Hole Group yet. So we have those 3 cases at the top of our agenda for the 317 hearing.
Michelson, Boringer, and Simone.
Yes.
Mhm.
I
Right.
just wanted Mr. Michelson to know that if that's what he's hanging on the line for.
I'm enjoying the meeting, but thanks very much.
Feel free to stay and enjoy. Sorry to interrupt.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
This is enjoyment.
All right, Mr. Coates, do you want to present the case?
Hi, this is Charles with Ponderosa Landscaping. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's see, they're proposing to create and improve 2 view areas that you can see on the landscape plan. One is off to the north, where the screen porch is, and the other's from the back deck through the field. And there's sort of a narrow corridor to see the view to the west. So on the north side, there's approximately 9 trees to remove in the view area. And there are some trees on that side of the house that are fairly close to the house that we thought would be better to remove. Some of the branches that are going to eventually hit the house. And there's some pines down the hill that are very spindly that are growing in with the oaks. There's a fair amount of oaks that are growing on that bank, making it fairly stable. We'd like to plant that area with mitigation, just to give it more understory plants. There's not even that many grasses growing in that area. It is the north side of the bank, but there should be plenty of light to get something growing in there. Now the field area to the west, there's a number, we propose to thin out the pines so that some of them can grow better, so they're not crowded together as much. And some of the pines are making shade for the bearberry. And when the pine needles fall on the bearberry, they'll affect their health in general. So we were going to remove about 85 of those seedlings. They're like basically 1/2 inch to 2-inch caliber little seedlings that have grown up. They just propagated themselves there. So that thins out that area to improve the bearberry, and thin out the forest basically so we can get some mature trees growing better. And then in the view corridor, we propose to laterally prune an oak tree and 2 pitch pines, just to open up that view a little bit. The pines are on the side, the oak is in the middle. There's one pine we'd like to flush cut that's right in the middle of that area. And then to mitigate, we'd like to plant 167 plants that are shrubs, perennials, and some switchgrass. Some of these will go off the screen porch where it's all sandy and near the front door. Most of them would go on the bank itself, which could use some stabilization, which I mentioned before. And the ones toward the west are basically planted within the existing plants that are there. Like they're mostly grasses. Any questions in general? I don't know if anybody was
Can I
able to
speak?
see the site.
Leo?
We were out there this morning. The northern exposure is the one of concern. Cutting down all those little, the pine trees that are out in the Bearberry, that's not as much of a concern, but the cliff on the northern side is so steep that going down there and trimming it, and if you clear cut that one tree, that might have a detrimental effect on the slope.
I think if we don't disturb the root system, it would still keep that area pretty solid. It's not really, really bad. It's going to help to get more shrub growth in that area. And then that'll develop new roots. And there's not much really understory plants in that area. I think it's going to help the wildlife factor also.
Thank you for speaking.
I think basically it's, the planning's going to help that bank a lot.
John?
Yeah, I'm skeptical that the planning is gonna help that bank. I mean, I looked around, there wasn't a lot of greenery anywhere, whether under the trees or in the exposed area. I think if you cut those trees down, you're just gonna further undermine the bank. I also think it's important to remember that when you talk about mitigation, you're replacing trees which absorb far more CO2 with shrubbery, which does not absorb as much CO2 from the atmosphere. So although the issue of the stabilization of the bank is one we can talk about, I don't think there's an equivalent between a shrub and a tree in the larger sense of the contribution of greenhouse gases. So I'm very reluctant to let us to okay the cutting down of trees and just saying, well, we're replacing it with shrubbery and that's an equivalence. I do not think it's an equivalence. The other that bothers me, and then I'll let you respond, is none of the trees on the north side looked at all threatening to the house. There was one that maybe in 10 or 15 years might be, but none of them were close. And nor did they seem at all threatening. The ones that are outside of the view corridor, I don't see a justification for cutting those down, and I don't feel comfortable cutting down the trees on the bank itself. The area where there's the bayberry ground cover and the small pine trees growing up the saplings, again, I preference trees over shrubbery for the simple reason of storing of carbon in the trees, but I'm not worried about that area so much. The clear cutting of that area of those small saplings doesn't bother me because it's not on the bank, it's not threatening the bank. And I don't think it's as big an issue as the cutting of the trees on the bank. I would much rather see some pruning perhaps, but I don't like the idea of just removing those trees on the bank.
Yes, on the north side, I would like to see activities limited to that view corridor and not anyplace else, because that's the purpose of this application, is to establish the view corridor. So I would just limit activities to that view corridor. And I agree with John that some of those trees that are targeted that are just at the top of the bank don't seem to be threatening the house. They're actually kind of small. So I would like to see this project scale down to allow a view and maybe allow and preserve the existing bearberry ground cover without impacting the bank at all.
Perhaps, like you said, just concentrate on that view corridor area. Eventually, some of those trees at the very top of the bank if they ever did fall over, that would affect the bank itself, but we could address that at a later time. You know, as those trees grew up, to the ones that are close to the house.
Right, and there would still be some mitigation for the work being done in the view corridor, I would assume.
Yep, yep. Because it would be nice to plant that bank regardless.
So do you want to come back with a revised planting plan and cutting plan?
Do you think in general, if we didn't take those trees out that are on the north side of the house, outside the corridor, we could take just a few shrubs away, like 10 shrubs off the list, and go ahead and
Yeah, I think the mitigation
mean-
could be adjusted to whatever isn't going to come down.
okay. Would it be possible to vote on it or not? And I could submit a plan to Hillary? Or
I would like to see a plan and vote on the whole thing from scratch.
Sounds good.
Because I'm
All
not
right.
sure what you do.
Okay, that's great.
But that's just me. I mean, I think you could ask other.
All right, let's ask other.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable
I would
signing
lean
off
towards
on
that, too.
virtual.
Yeah, since it's an NOI, I would agree with John Kumbler that we need to see it again.
So it sounds like if we don't take those trees down, we'll just reduce the number of plants a certain amount.
Right, and also
Yes.
the trees on the other side, not in the view corridor that has those, the bearberry, there are some trees flagged on the bank that I think we don't want to see come down either.
Right, exactly.
You mean on the north side of the house?
No, the
West side.
the west side.
Let's see, we're taking one tree down over there on the
That,
west.
that was a big pine tree right on the bank.
Yeah, it was about a 4-inch caliper, I think, maybe 5-inch. In the middle of the view corridor, near the top of the bank.
Well, I think maybe when you submit another plan, we'd go out there again and look
Sure.
at that tree, because I think you might be able to get a view without that
Yep.
tree coming down. And also there were a lot of those little pine trees that were even outside of the view corridor in the Bearberry area too. So I don't know if it needs to be as drastic a tree removal.
Yep, that one tree is partially leaning, but it's still there. So we
Yeah.
could look at that. Yep,
So it sounds like you're asking for a continuance.
that seems logical.
Could
And
you
then-
get it for the next meeting, or do you want
Yes.
more time?
We could do it next meeting,
March
which
17th.
is March 17th. Great.
We'll just need the revised paperwork 1 week before the meeting, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have to vote on that?
Yes, please.
I move that we continue. Oh, I lost my,
Coates,
what we're continuing. Coates.
Votes.
10 First Ave.
Yes. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Leon, second.
John Kungler,
Okay, so a voice vote. Barbara,
Yes.
John,
yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
and Mike, yes. Okay, so we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
So we have to vote on continuing Simone first and then the other two.
Yep.
Do we have a motion to continue
I
Simone?
move that we continue Simone.
Second, Barbara.
All right, voice vote, Barbara,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
and Mike, yes.
Are we going out to the 17th?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Michelson, map
I move
28,
we
parcel
continue, Michelson.
184. We want to continue. John moves it. there a
Second,
second?
Barbara. Second, Barbara.
A voice vote, Barbara,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
and Mike Fisher, yes. Boringer. Peer
I move,
review,
I move we continue Beringer.
Tumblr second.
okay, a voice vote, Barbara,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
and Mike Fisher recuses because it's on Conservation Trust land. Okay, I think we can now move to adjourn.
First, I want to thank Mike for chairing.
Yes, good job,
Yeah,
Mike.
thank you,
Yeah,
Mike.
good job.
Mike.
Oh,
Is there a move to adjourn?
Certainly.
Barbara moves to
second.
adjourn. I second.
Barbara,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Leon,
He
I
said
gather that's a yes.
Put
He
your-
raised
yeah.
his hand.
Okay.
Yes.
And Mike Fisher, yes.
Great.
Okay, so we're all set then.
Thank you.
For now. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night. See you all in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.